Morning,
Awesome.
everyone. Welcome to the DeFi Live for Good panel. Thank you very much to Harry and Ashton and all the team at DeFi Live for putting this together and inviting us to participate. Hopefully we'll have Mark joining us very shortly. My name is Bridget Greenwood. I'm the founder of The Bigger Pie. The Bigger Pie is an organization designed around building gender equity in the blockchain space. So as I see it, this technology has the ability to be able to build out for everyone. We have systems at the moment and for a few. So now we have technology that allows us to be able to interact with anyone that we want to and allow anyone to come into the financial economic space. But if we only have it built by a few, we're going to end up only building solutions for a few. And so we need everyone at the design, development, and deployment table. And of course, that includes half the population, which are women. So the fact that I was moderate on the DeFi For Good panel is wonderful for me because it's very close to my heart. What we're going to do is we'll start off with you, Adam, and then hopefully Mark can come and join. Yes, welcome to the panel or the interview, depending on whether Mark can join us or not, is Adam Simmons. He is the Chief Strategy Officer at Audits and also lead at GoodFi. So welcome, Adam. Please do tell us a little bit more about the roles that you do today and the journey that got you to this place.
I'd love to, and thank you very much for hosting, and to everyone for DeFi Live for inviting me. So, as mentioned, my main role is I'm Chief Strategy Officer at Radix DLT, which is a layer 1 protocol being built specifically to serve DeFi. I joined the business about 2 years ago now, and have been very fortunate to see it grow quite considerably in that time. But as everyone in the space has seen over the last 2 years, obviously DeFi has grown a lot, but we're just very much at the start of the adoption curve. And the other reason I'm on today, and specifically on this panel, is one of the things we founded at Radix was a non-profit called GoodFi, with the mission to bring 100 million people to try DeFi by 2025. And we're very fortunate we launched that earlier this year and have just shy of 100 members from leading people and projects in the space. So that is me. And I believe Mark's on as well now. Mark, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you absolutely fine, mate. So
I can hear you. We'll just carry on. We'll have a lovely sit down conversation. I've got a cup of tea here with me ready. So.
Yeah. I think we're qualified to talk about it. So I guess I was just mentioning what we do at the Near Foundation. So Near Foundation, similar to Radix, is a layer 1 protocol that is kind of based on Ethereum in the sense that it's a smart contract model. And I work in the business development and ecosystem success team. So what that entails is setting up partnerships with other key players in the industry that would be beneficial for the Near ecosystem, as well as bringing on entrepreneurs and developers who are building applications and helping them navigate the Near ecosystem so they get the resources they need to be a success over the long term.
Awesome. So I have quickly, while you were introducing yourself, Mark, pulled up our schedule of what we were meant to be discussing today, just in case Bridget's internet doesn't come back. So I think the first question was actually one for you, which is for people joining in now to the event who maybe aren't that familiar with kind of DeFi and crypto in general. Like, in your words, what is the difference between crypto and DeFi for someone who is new to the space?
Wow. Okay. So crypto is kind of an all-encompassing term, right? It's short for cryptocurrencies, which I guess is a misnomer now, because when the technology was first invented or thought about, it was simply with the myopic view that these are digital currencies with the long-term goal of it being some kind of medium exchange or a currency. But we've moved on a very long way since then. It's a lot more than currency. And I think cryptocurrency is a term that's used less and less these days. And we've sort of broken up into little segments or niche parts of the industry. And DeFi is a portmanteau of decentralized finance. And when we talk about decentralized finance, we have often a permissionless application that's built on top of a particular blockchain that you can log in using some kind of interface like a MetaMask wallet or something like that. This is your access to that platform, and then you can exchange or partake in that application in a peer-to-peer manner with other people who are transacting in that transfer. So the decentralized part means it's an application that lives on the internet with smart contracts, and the finance part is, you're often transacting with different sort of financial instruments and tools.
Yeah, and I think the only bit I'd add to that, which is something that in our work with GoodFi, we did a lot of kind of user testing and user journeys in crypto. I think many people, when you talk about DeFi, they go, oh, is that a cryptocurrency thing? They inherently assume that has a high degree of volatility. And this entire idea of being able to even just simple applications like lending or providing liquidity to stable coins as a way to still generate yield from your assets without being exposed to high degrees of volatility is something that a lot of people are still learning is even a possibility in the space.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a lot of fear about having exposure to what is usually a volatile asset. And we're kidding ourselves to say that many of the assets in the blockchain Web3 crypto space are not volatile. They are very, very volatile because they're speculative tools, right? But the functions that are being brought about by the different protocols, different centralized institutions, legacy finance getting involved means there's a lot of actual real dollars backing what we call stable coins. So, it's becoming a safer place to play around in, so to speak, without being exposed to a lot of volatility.
Cool. I think Bridget is back. Bridget, are you back on the stream now?
Yes, I believe so. And apologies for that. Thanks very much. I mean, it's nice to see you here too, Mark, as well. Obviously, I've missed what you guys have just been talking about, so forgive me if this doesn't link through. But this is the beginning of the DeFi Live 2-day event, and then for a lot of people, it might be the beginning of the DeFi journey for them. So can we sort of start with a little bit of foundation, Mark, if you can talk to us about the difference between crypto and DeFi, and if you haven't covered it already, how DeFi has evolved to where we are, just in a couple of minutes, that would be great.
Yeah, look, we just covered that. So I think
Perfect.
Probably, we want to explore, how what we've talked about in the evolution of crypto to DeFi, why can DeFi be a tool for good, which I think
Perfect.
is a good thing for Adam to cover.
Wonderful. So yes, Adam, what are you doing at DeFi? GoodFi that is helping DeFi for good.
So one of the things that we really looked at Radix as we were exploring how do we take DeFi from what is even today a $200 billion plus dollar TVL state to even approaching the size of global finance, which is around $360 trillion of assets, if you don't even include things like derivatives. And one of the big things here is education, of actually explaining to people what is DeFi and how could you use it. And one of the things Mark and I were talking about just before you rejoined was when you look at most people and you say, oh, it's a cryptocurrency thing, they expect high degrees of volatility, they expect a lot of confusion, they don't know whether it's safe, if all their money's going to disappear overnight or anything like that. So one of the things we looked at is actually there is a big need for everyone in the industry, not just individual projects like Radix or Near or anything like that, but actually as an entire industry. How do we get more people into DeFi? And GoodFi was our mechanism for doing that, as a way to just have a simple mission of 100 million people to put $1 into DeFi by 2025. And that is very ambitious, but again, for the scale that we believe that DeFi can get to and the benefits it'll bring is still just early adopter stage at most.
Yes, indeed. And when we were talking yesterday, you spoke about how DeFi treats each dollar the same, unlike traditional finance. Could you expand a bit more on that?
Yeah, so this to me is one of the two main things of being a benefit of DeFi over traditional finance for end users, but also the industry as a whole, which is in traditional finance, because of admin and just operation of funds, if you walk into a bank with $1 million and $100, the person with $1 million will get different opportunities. They may get better returns. They may get treated differently. Now, that is not just down to banks being big evil corporations that don't want to take money. Actually, it's the complete opposite. The financial system wants as much money in it as possible. It helps it do its job better, which is allocate capital to opportunities based on risk. The problem is in traditional finance, there's all the overheads of running that. And so lower amounts for certain opportunities just don't make sense. Of course, with DeFi, when you make that programmatic, you then get that option of basically every dollar being treated the same, or even every fraction of a dollar. Now, that is a real equalizer in that anyone participating in DeFi, if we gloss over gas fees facing Ethereum at the moment, but if you have the vision of a low transaction cost environment, you actually end up in a situation where everyone can proportionally access the same opportunities and get the same returns for their money if they take on the same risks as another user. And that's a great leveler.
Yes, that's hugely important. I mean, I've seen as I've gone through my life as well, just if you don't fit the right criteria. I used to be an independent financial advisor. I used to be considered a sophisticated investor. Becoming a single mum meant that I didn't have the same pot of money that was required for me to be able to be considered sophisticated, even though my intelligence hadn't changed. So I think it's great to be able to give more people access to those opportunities. And Mark, it would be great to understand what you're doing at the NEAR Foundation addressing this.
Yeah, sure. So it's a good segue from something that Adam said about the gas fees and regular people not really being able to take part in DeFi. So NEAR protocol is a layer one blockchain that's had the benefit of a bit of time of watching layer one protocols like Cardano, Ethereum develop and sort of build out their technology. We've kind of seen what works, what doesn't work, and built a long-term solution that will scale. And part of that solution is building a system, a proof of consensus staking, proof of stake consensus mechanism, which involves very low transaction fees. So we have a very, very strong community in the emerging markets, places like Vietnam, Southeast Asia, and we're building DeFi protocols that allow these people to take part and make transactions with these smart contracts for the cost of less than 1 cent. So that's an area that we're really focusing on, as well as the way that our smart contracts are designed. A developer or programmer can program a set of rules into the smart contract where 30% of the gas fees can be allocated to any specific DAO, foundation, cause, another smart contract, or anything that they so determine. So let's say that you're interested in providing ongoing resources for young people to learn to code or develop smart contracts. If any transaction you make on a smart contract collects a gas fee, then 30% of those fees will go to that smart contract or DAO as you're choosing. So you can really build a long-term legacy if you do to design a smart contract that gets a lot of use and put funds into a good cause for perpetuity. So we're really excited about enabling developers and programmers in building this decentralized finance world that they want to see.
That's great news. And you mentioned the areas that you're really working in. I wonder, Adam, if you can share, when you've got getting how many was it? 100 million people?
100 million, yes, is the goal with GoodFi.
It seems to be, for those who their systems really aren't working for them. I remember listening to Andreas Antonopoulos talk, saying that he went to various South American countries, and the question wasn't why, the question was when. Are you seeing that sort of adoption is much more needed? The systems are more broken. There isn't this opportunity, so the adoption is geographically different, and potentially these countries might be able to leapfrog us in terms of adoption.
I think it's more of a case of spreading a very wide net, and that's the joy of DeFi. It's a global permissionless network that you can come and access. Now, there's definitely different social economic reasons in different countries why people might want to get involved in DeFi, but I think it's kind of a root cause. Like everyone I speak to and explain this view of like more competition from financial services, giving better user experiences, every dollar being treated the same. It's a universal constant. Like I'm from the UK, and if you went to some of the some of the areas of the country which are less economically developed and active, I don't think there's people there who would not want the opportunity for their money to be put to work in the same way as other people's. And so it's kind of a global calling. Everyone wants that. And it's not a new concept. You want to be treated fairly in a system. You want to access the same opportunities. Now, when we look into emerging markets, obviously, there are some big benefits there. The fact that, again, gas fees on Ethereum today aside, if you have a very low cost network where you can start getting involved in the financial system and making your money work for you from a fraction of a dollar, then that is obviously a big advantage if you have limited capital. How we see that grow is a combination of user interface, whether we're going to see desktop or mobile first as a way people interact. Obviously, most DeFi today, people are accessing from a desktop. But if you look at even traditional banking and things like that, most people are accessing via mobile devices typically at a retail level. So when we're looking at what we're doing with GoodFi and how we address these things, is it's not only just education, it's actually how do we have better interfaces for people? How do we explain people into getting into these systems in their local currencies as well? There's still a big challenge with kind of fiat on and off ramps, depending on what local currency you're using. So we are still at the very early stages of this, and I think it's a positive for everyone. And the nice thing about what we're building with DeFi and when we're getting more people into the space is that actually it is a global system. Everyone wants this same thing, and that means that improving it for any group of the global population, in theory, should improve it for absolutely everyone else as well.
Absolutely. And Mark, can you talk a little bit more about where we are in today's evolution, how this compares to the traditional financial sector, and what that looks like?
Yeah, look, I think Adam said it a few times. We say it every day in the space, but we are really so early here. I guess further to what Adam said earlier as well, we have lofty goals ourselves. Our goal at the NEAR Foundation is to onboard 1 billion users onto the NEAR protocol. So look, we're not here to mess around. And at the moment, we've got 1.3 million active wallets, so a long way to go, but we're really doubling down on education, and education is the key. It's about showing people and developers that, all they need is a good internet connection and a little bit of gumption and the desire to succeed, and the tooling is out there for them to create their own financial infrastructure. There's not these gated communities or anything like this. And of course, regulation is always going to be top of mind in different jurisdictions and those kind of things, but it's about giving these people the tools, and we're really doubling down at the NEAR Foundation on giving grants for educators in the space, people who want to help those that are interested in learning how to code smart contracts with different languages. So for example, we have a developer course where if you have a basic idea or fundamental understanding, of WebAssembly models like JavaScript or Python, we can get you up and running with a smart contract within a few days. So that's where we're going. We're focusing on the developers, focusing on the builders. And once these guys are up to speed on how to build on this Web3 technology, the killer app will come. We're, expecting something to come that we probably haven't even thought about yet. Something that resonates with me is my teacher when I was in the third grade, about 8 years old, and we were talking about what we're going to do when we're older. And he said to me that, 90% of the jobs that you guys will do or work as a profession don't even exist yet. And that the same is true today. We're entering this new world. We're very, very early of what's possible with smart contracts, front-end development, all these kind of things. So, we're focusing on bringing everyone in open arms, true decentralized web, open protocols, and focusing on the people that build. And we'll rely on them to make the changes from the traditional finance system. Let the users, let the people have their own sovereignty and decide and design what applications work for them and their communities, and go out there and build it.
I think in my ideal mind as well, it would be great to have people who understand what the problems are, have ideas about how that solution might be put into place, and then be matched to the people who can have the technical ability to be able to build that, rather than just leaving everything on the builder's hands. It would be great to be able to see that community sort of come together with those with the ideas and who are championing and living the issues that they have and have an understanding of solving it, but without the coding aspect. But absolutely, I hear you when it comes to the fact that we have a huge shortfall in supply of developers, and that's something that's very close to my heart as well. So perhaps off stage I can tell you about the project that we're looking to builders into this. So Adam, sorry, what do you see that we need to do to continue to build on in this space and it's evolving? So where are the obvious sort of still issues that we might have right now? Why do they how much do they matter, and what does the future look like?
That's a really good question. So essentially, this is my day in, day out work at Radix. Is what our goal at Radix is: how do we have a decentralized network for the entire global financial system, and what are the barriers between now, where 200 billion sounds big externally, but in the perspective of global finance is tiny? How do we 1,000, 2,000x that? What's blocking it? And really, the first bit, as Mark mentioned, is gas fees and scaling. That is a major problem. Even at this really limited scale, the kind of innovator stage of the technology adoption, $100 to do a simple swap on a DEX on Ethereum is not viable if you're transacting anything under than kind of high 5-figure, low 6-figure amounts. It's just economically not something you can do. So that by itself isn't solving this problem of access and free access. So you've got to be able to scale, and people like Nia, Radix, others in the space are trying to solve that problem. Now, the thing with scale, though, is scale only matters if you've got the demand for it. If you have no cars on a road, but it's 50 lanes wide, is it any use? So the next piece is then, how do you actually get these really killer applications, as Mark mentioned? And building DeFi today really sucks fundamentally. And it's not because the developers aren't skillful. It's the time to talent to build secure DeFi applications is multi-year, and that causes problems not only for entrepreneurs but even established DeFi projects in hiring new talent. There's a shortage. So tackling actually how DeFi is built is a really important piece, but also when it is built and getting that time to talent down is also looking at how do we ensure that security is also key there. So a stat I love and hate simultaneously is in the last year, there's been over $1 billion of hacks and exploits in DeFi. So that's about 0.5% of the total value locked in the space. Obviously, that is not scalable to a mainstream adoption. It's like, would you move to an area where you had your wallet stolen twice a year? Probably not. It would be really frustrating, let alone more assets than that. So one of the things we're doing with Radix, for example, is our Scripto programming language, which we're actually demoing at the end of this week, to make it easier for people to build, to get more devs in. Now, not only does that help the ecosystem today, but that really accelerates the innovation in the space. As Mark said, the killer applications in DeFi could be things we haven't even thought of yet. It means that more people, both entrepreneurs and developers, can get involved in building the financial future. But critically for the consumer and also for the actual system itself, is it creates more choice in what people can access within DeFi if they have more options of different dApps. And ultimately, if you have more competition in the space, especially within finance, which is obviously very price sensitive, you not only get more personalization and more options to mold your financial assets and how they mold the world based on your beliefs, but also you get better user experience. Typically, you've got more choice. No longer do you have a choice of two banks where one offers you nothing and one offers you nothing and a free pen if you sign with them for the year. You actually have these options. And it also helps the financial system because, again, if you've got more choices, capital can move more freely and more liquid. And ultimately, that's all the global financial markets want to do, is have the most liquidity in moving capital between opportunities based on their risk to users. And DeFi really lets us accelerate that in a way that we haven't really seen ever before.
Mark, would you like to add to that?
No, look, it's about making it as simple as possible, giving developers and communities the right tooling. Everything that Adam said there, I agree with wholeheartedly. And fundamentally, that's my role at the NEAR Foundation, to shepherd these people who are building applications within the NEAR ecosystem to make sure that they've got the right resources for security audits, or they've got the right development resources for smart contracts or front-end developers, or, even to the point where, they might need external funding or external networks or those kind of things. It's about helping these people navigate in an early sector and giving them what they need to go ahead and succeed.
So both of you have mentioned sort of the audits and the role that makes, especially when it's looking at making sure that we don't have these wallets hacked. I had a conversation with Keir Finlay-Bates. I don't know if either of you know him, but and I was asking him about, what are the current flaws that we've got, and one of the things that he said was that there isn't really a robust audit system in place at the moment, particularly when you deploy smart contracts. Is that something that we're getting better at? What do we need to be able to do in that scenario?
So I think that's a really good question, and audits and external security reviews are going to be important. Anyone who is trusting assets, especially large amounts of their net worth into a system, is going to want to know that it's secure. It's also the early stage of the industry. So one of the things that we hear a lot from developers looking at like Solidity and building on Ethereum is that it's non-intuitive. And that is actually quite a major problem. Like if you are a developer and I explained how Uniswap as a swap worked in an architectural diagram to you, and you then drew that, you would not draw how it actually works in Ethereum today. And an analogy I love using is it's like building video games before they invented game engines. And so you don't start with this cool video game world that does the thing you want to do and have users engage with it the way you want. You start by going, how do I program the laws of physics into this game? And that takes a lot of time. It's really complicated. And while in early games, someone coded what a squidgy sofa should be wrong, and you put something on it and it falls through the world and you've lost it forever, is mildly annoying. If you did that with $1 million, it's a major problem. And this is something that the space has to resolve, both in actually how developers build so that it is more intuitive and there are guardrails in place to take the stress off audits, but also so audits can be done functionally. Because today, even the biggest audit companies can review code and there's still problems. That's why there's still hacks in major protocols, not because the developers have a problem, but their own code and smart contracts are incredibly complex. And the superpower of DeFi is making it all composable. So you could build something and think you've thought of everything, and then have 50 other people build 100 other apps that all interact with yours in ways you never expected. That makes it extremely difficult to secure it.
Understood. And we have 1 minute to go. So thank you so much. And I appreciate you working whilst I had technical issues at the beginning. Mark, one final word from you. What would you like people from this panel to take away, either as an action or as a learning point?
I'd like people to take away that you don't necessarily need to be a developer or a smart contract coder or anything like that to get involved in the space. DeFi protocols, crypto protocols, businesses, we need everyone of all kinds of skills, marketing, human resources, all those kind of wonderful details, operations, all those kind of things. So if you're interested in getting involved in the space, by all means, just reach out to me. I'm Mark at near.foundation. I'm happy to chat. But yeah, it's very early. We need people of all kinds of skills. So get involved, have a play around with the space. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the panel today.
Thank you very much. I can agree with you more. And 20 seconds, Adam.
Just thank you very much as well. If you want to find out anything more about me, check me out on LinkedIn or come and find me in either the Radix Telegram groups or Discords, websites, etc.
Thank you both, Adam and Mark. It was fascinating to chat with you. I look forward to connecting more with you guys both.
Great.
Thanks, Bridget.
Thanks, Bridget.